Greetings everyone, I'm Adam Haritan. Welcome to the beautiful woods of Pennsylvania. Today I'm spending time in a really special place and I'm excited to share it with you. So I'm hanging out in a small patch of what's considered to be a mature forest. Now maybe you're thinking, what is a mature forest? How is a mature forest any different than an old growth forest? Is it different or is it the same thing? These are all good questions, and I like these kinds of questions because when we ask these questions, we begin to think about the landscape on a more intimate level. Now, I understand that spending time in a forest, just for the heck of it, is a wonderful thing to do, and there is a time and place for zoning out and being lost in our thoughts and not really thinking too hard about what's going on around us. But, and it's probably no surprise for you to hear this, I am a bigger fan of being engaged with our surroundings, paying attention to what's going on around us, being incredibly curious, and asking lots of questions about what we are seeing and hearing. That's why I think it is important to understand what a mature forest looks like, because when we understand, we increase our knowledge of the land, which subsequently strengthens our connection to nature. So the forest that I'm currently spending time in is what's known as a beech maple forest. Beech and maple are dominant canopy trees in this ecosystem, but they are not the only trees in this ecosystem, and in a few minutes, I will talk about another dominant tree growing here. Mature is the key word that I used to describe this forest. As you take a look around, you can already start to get a sense of what a mature forest looks like. Now, it's not quite old growth. Instead, it's the transitional stage between a young forest and an old growth forest. Most of the oldest trees in this forest are about 100 to 150 years old, which is less than half of the maximum lifespan of many of the trees. Now, if the trees in this forest were at least 200 to 250, 300, 350 years old, then we could start to entertain the notion that this ecosystem might be an old growth forest. So even though this mature beech maple forest isn't quite old growth, it shares many features with an old growth forest. Like an old growth forest, this forest has lots of living trees that are large, both in height and in girth. It has large standing snags and large fallen trees on the forest floor, and it has multiple canopy layers. All of these features are more like those of an old growth forest than they are like those of a young forest. In a classically defined beech maple forest, American beech is usually the most abundant dominant canopy tree. And as I take a look around here, that's certainly true in this particular patch of woods. But as you get further out that way, beech becomes less and less common, and it's almost non-existent a couple acres that way. But around here, looks like American beech is doing pretty well. Now, American beech is a slow-growing, shade-tolerant tree, and it takes a long time for American beech to reach a size like this. And most of the saplings and younger trees that you see around me, like this one right here, is American beech, and it's growing very slowly in the understory. But if a gap opens up in the canopy and light comes through and hits this tree will start to grow much more rapidly. Now, it wouldn't be a beech maple forest without maple. But we're not talking about any old maple. We're not talking about silver maple or mountain maple or striped maple or even box elder. We're talking about this maple right here. Do you know which maple this is? Well, this is sugar maple, Acer saccharum, and it's pretty common in the canopy of this particular patch of land. But American beech is probably a bit more prolific. Like American beech, sugar maple is a slow-growing, shade-tolerant tree, so this tree took a long time in order to reach this size. And a lot of the younger trees and saplings right around here belong to sugar maple. But unlike American beech, sugar maple, and this is a difference between the two trees, sugar maple can grow more rapidly than American beech when sunlight is able to reach the forest floor. So if a tree falls down and a gap is opened up in the canopy and sunlight is able to come through, and there's a sapling of American beech and a sapling of sugar maple can grow more rapidly than American beech. A few moments ago, I mentioned that there was another tree that shares the canopy with American beech and sugar maple. This is the tree that I was referring to. So which tree is this? Well, in my opinion, the bark of this tree is fairly distinctive. So this is one of the easier trees to positively identify. The bark has this burnt potato chip, flaky look to it. It's quite dark in color. This is black cherry. Now, black cherry grows more quickly than American beech and sugar maple, but it's less shade tolerant. So it can do okay in the understory, but it really likes a lot of light in order to thrive. And I can tell that that's the case in this particular patch of land because most of the understory trees, if not nearly every single one, they belong to sugar maple and American beech. I've seen very, very, very few black cherry saplings or young trees in this particular patch of land. But that all changes when we go that way. I mentioned a few moments ago that as we go that way, a couple acres that way, fewer and fewer American beech trees exist, but black cherry is very common over there. And that tells me that perhaps there was some large-scale disturbance event, whether that would be logging or blowdowns caused by strong winds, that took place over there that opened up the forest and allowed a lot of light to come through, giving black cherry a chance to thrive. Now, before we wrap up, I want to mention two more trees, including this one right here. This is one of the biggest trees in the beech maple forest. Now, there aren't a lot of them in the strict beech maple mature forest around here. That's another one over there, smaller size, but I wanted to stand next to the big one. So which tree is this? Well, this is Tulip Tree or Tulip Poplar, and it's a fast-growing tree. Again, not a lot of them around here, but over there where the forest had been cleared decades ago due to some kind of disturbance event where the black cherries are thriving, no surprise, tulip trees are thriving over there as well because they like a lot of sunlight. Okay, so this is the tree we will end with. It's probably the largest tree I've seen all day. It's so large that I have to kneel down in order to get it in the shot. So this tree is not as common as American beech and sugar maple and black cherry in this beech maple forest, but it's not uncommon. There's quite a few, not necessarily this big, but there are quite a few of them. This is not as common as tulip tree though in this particular ecosystem. So which tree is this? Well, this is northern red oak. And northern red oak really likes to grow in mesic woodlands. And this beech maple forest is a mesic woodland, meaning the soil contains a moderate amount of moisture. It's not very dry, like you would find on a dry ridgetop where chestnut oak and pitch pine would be growing. And the soil doesn't get flooded or saturated like you might find in a bottomland forest where eastern cottonwood and American sycamore would be growing. Instead, there's a moderate amount of moisture, it's well drained, and trees like northern red oak and American beech and sugar maple and black cherry and tulip tree, they all like to grow in these particular habitats. Now, of course, we don't necessarily need to know any of that information in order to enjoy ourselves in a forest. Some days it's fine to think about none of that at all. But today is not that day. Today, I think it is important to ask questions. Questions like, what is a mature forest? What kind of mature forest is this? What trees are we likely to find here? What trees are we not likely to find here? What tree is this? And why is this tree here? When we ask those kinds of questions, we might not always receive answers or the right answers, but at least our questioning keeps us alert and connected to a particular place, like this place right here, in a very special way. And the next time you visit a forest, whether that's a young, mature, older, or old growth forest, I strongly encourage you to remain engaged by being curious and asking lots of questions. Thank you so much for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, I encourage you to subscribe to the Learn Your Land YouTube channel and to head on over to learnyourland.com and sign up for the email newsletter so that we can stay in touch. Thank you again for watching. I will see you on the next video.